Hey Holly, as the inclusion and engagement lead at Sky Betting and Gaming, you have a great background in creating inclusive teams. So, what does your day-to-day role entail?
Hi, Perrine. Thanks for inviting me on today. So my role at SBG is all about building and executing the inclusion strategy, which this year's got 5 pillars: education and awareness, reaching untapped talent, using data to disrupt bias, inclusive design, and the way we collaborate across our wider Flutter group.
Amazing. And what are some successes that you've had with your diversity and inclusion program so far?
So last year we launched a leadership inclusion pledge. So it was the first time our leadership team had ever made some solid org-wide commitments to inclusion. And they also set out what they expected of every single employee when they come to work at SBG, in terms of the behaviours and actions that create an inclusive environment. And that was key in us devolving accountability for inclusion. So not just sitting with the people team, it showed our commitment to everyone having accountability. And that was a huge shift that we saw. I'd also say our educational resources last year. So I guess 2020 was a big educational and awakening year for a lot of people. So we started different panel events. So we have a Let's Talk About series. So we've done one on race over the Black Lives Matter movement. We also have a in-house podcast called Sitting Uncomfortably, where we start uncomfortable conversations on inclusion, the things that people are too scared to ask about, but really should understand. And that's driven some amazing conversations and change mindsets and actions within the company. So yeah, I'd call those two out.
That's really amazing. And what advice would you give to any organization looking at starting their diversity and inclusion programs?
So from my experience, I think, and from what I see on the landscape, I would say don't just appoint a D&I lead or start staff employee resource groups and think your problem will be fixed. This is a huge piece of work that has to sit over everything that happens within the organisation, and it cannot just be left to one person or people that don't even get paid to do the job to fix the problem. So invest in a senior lead, invest in resource, and show everyone that it's everyone's responsibility, from the leadership team through all employees.
Great advice. And what are some of the lessons learned that you can share with us regarding leading diversity and inclusion?
So back to my previous point, I'd say a senior role is key. So we appointed a head of inclusion at SBG last year, which was incredible in shifting us towards that devolved accountability and creating a much more, creating an environment where people felt that they had accountability. And I think also a really brave lesson we had to learn last year is when you have serious commitments to inclusion, you've got to accept that some people might no longer align to the values of your organisation, and that's fine in creating inclusive places to work. We do need people that foster those same morals and values.
Amazing advice. And finally, who would you recommend someone should work with in order to get some real results with diversity and inclusion?
It's I don't mean it to sound a cop-out answer, but I would say everyone. So we've spent obviously a lot of time with our leadership team, a lot of time with our directors, but also like this is people's lives that we're talking about. So the lives of our employees. So it's so important to listen to them and work with them to co-create your inclusion strategy as well as leaders. So I would say everyone, every manager, leader, person has a role in creating an inclusive environment at work.
Holly, that's amazing. Where can people follow you to follow your latest advice and tips on diversity and inclusion? Where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You made me sound like a bit of an influencer there, Perrine, but I'm definitely not. But if you are interested in my rambles, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for Holly Straker.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Holly, for your time. Thanks.